everyone, and welcome to our podcast, Keeping It Together. My name is Bridget White, and I am joined with Dr. Lindsay Croshoe and our new guest, Russ Baker. Hi, Russ. It's nice to meet you.
Hello. Nice to meet you too.
So our podcast is about what people did during COVID to keep them together, or what they put in their kit during COVID to foster resilience and wellness, and things that we can take even from COVID and apply to afterwards. So we're talking to Russ today about the hand game. So I'm wondering, Russ, could you give us a little introduction to who you are and what you do, and kind of just why you're here and why we invited you on the podcast?
Okay. Tansei Newehio in Wabastam, Hadi. So that's hello in two of my languages, Nihia or Cree, and Dakash or Carrier. So I kind of come from a bunch of different places. My dad's dad was from a small carrier reserve near Prince George called Kletle Tene. My dad's mother, her family comes from the Atathlekut, Cree First Nation in Saskatchewan. My other Nokum, or grandmother, was a ghost keeper from northern Alberta. And then my other grandfather was Irish and Norwegian. And I always just like to share, since I am a visitor, my blood's from a lot of other places, the territory I'm in. So the Blackfoot Confederacy, Treaty 7. So Siksika, Kainai, Pagani, the Ihe Nakota, Satana, and Métis Region 3. So I'm always honored to be here in your territory. So thank you, Lindsay, for allowing me space and time. So yeah, when it's kind of in respect to COVID and things that have kept me well, and in regards to hand games or traditional games, I think that was the question.
Yeah.
Okay. I
Just
just want to
wondering a
make
little bit about hand games, what you can tell us a little bit about it, how it's played, and how and why you came to facilitate this game with Indigenous youth.
Okay. So when I first learned was on the Okanagan Penticton Indian Reserve through the Kruger family. Their family had played it frequently and had actually gone to tournaments with them and never did extremely well. I don't know if it was all my fault that we didn't win, but I'll take it. And then another person, Ray Paul, another Okanagan, I think he might be Shuswap as well. I should have checked on that. Taught me versions of it. So in that territory, it's called Lahal or Slahal, and it was a game that was mainly done to bring up spirits. So if there was a hardship in the community, a death or food shortage or something bothering the people, they would play that game specifically because in the ways that I've been taught, you should be silly, you should be making faces at the other team, you should try and distract them within some level of politeness. So when I've done this in schools and stuff, I tell kids you can do all the things your teachers say you can't do, other than things that, are maybe have a little bit of, you know, not meanness, but yeah, have fun with it. Yeah, so that's how I've been taught. So again, this not being my territory, I always make it clear that the way hand games or stick games are played here, there'll be some differences. So it's a game, again, that what came to be to bring laughter and joy and silliness and to kind of pull your focus to something other than maybe what's been going on around you. The other part that I've really loved about it when I was first learning was I saw little ones play alongside elders and then parents. So to see the whole family, those age groups connecting, all playing, contributing, things along those lines, really impacted me. So that's a big reason why I try and share it. And when I'm asked to to teach that I do it, yeah, in the best way that I know. Um, yeah, so things along the lines of community. There's math involved. There's sharing. There's connectedness. Like there's so many things that go on in our traditional games that people might not realize are happening all at once. And once you break it down a little bit, um, but there's also an element of spirituality. So I've played against some really good players. And whenever I come up against an elder or somebody I kind of know in community and they do something like this, I get kind of scared and I just want to give them the bones because they're like giving medicine to you. They're like, it's just, they're going to guess them anyway. So I just want to give them over. Um, so there's a level of spirituality in there. And there's another version I know a bit about, but I won't really discuss. I'll just bring it up. Is holy hand games. So I know that's a style of hand games that's played around here, where you're actually praying for people and for different scenarios while you're playing the game. Um, yeah, so those are some elements of that game, and there's other games that I teach as well. Um, yeah.
For those of us who aren't entirely aware of what the hand game exactly is, do you want to give us just a brief introduction to how one might play?
Yeah, so you have one team hiding the bones, the other team guessing. Every time you guess correctly for the clear set, you get that set of bones. So if you guessed with your hand gesture both sets, you'd get both sets of bones. Then the other team would start guessing and you would hide them and you would be drumming and singing to distract the other team. Um, Now there's a bunch of different ways to trick the other team, to distract them. Again, making faces, noises, a bunch of different things. So you could have them in your hands like this, kind of shake them at the other person, like whatever you can do to distract. And then the other team guessing will have their own kind of techniques on how to figure it out. So I usually don't tell this tip to people I'm teaching immediately, but I ask how much of our communication is nonverbal. So I'll ask you two learned individuals. What do you think?
Bridget, what'd you think?
How much of our communication is nonverbal? I'm going to go with 80%. That's my guess.
Yeah,
Mm, yeah. I think people's body language can say a lot more than their words because you can kind of say whatever you want and not really necessarily mean it, whereas you can't really lie with your body language.
yeah, that's just a typical day on the C train. Yeah, that's
Lindsay,
your
what do you
approach.
think?
I I would agree. I've seen some of the literature say from 70 to 90%. So
Yeah,
depends on where you look. It's the majority of information transferred back and forth, and it's contextually bound. It's culturally bound, and there's many. It's pretty cool. Many rules around it that, from a cultural perspective, is agreed upon, but when you're in an intercultural space, often we don't have the same rules, so things can be totally misinterpreted, right? And so it's very complex, but also very amazing and beautiful at the same time. So yeah, nonverbals. Thanks, Russ. I
yeah,
really enjoy that. That's really cool.
yeah. And if you're a Nihia or a Cree individual, goes a step further with the lip pointing. So I've done that in places and I didn't realize. Actually, one of my really good friends, like a brother, Tim Fox, the way I grew up was not very cultural. When my mom's mom was my main teacher, she would speak to us in Mihai, but she would never translate. She'd get very upset when I'd ask. And then I understood when I got older that residential school was probably a big part of that. But she would also always point with her lips, and I'd really get annoyed because cookums, they have like a shelf of little trinkets, and she'd be like, "Get me that," and there'd be 30 things, and I'd go pick one thing, and she's like, "No, that." So like 5 times in, I finally, after a while, knew exactly. Anyways, so I did that once in front of Tim. He's like, "No, you didn't just do that." I was like, "Do what?" He's like, "Did you just point with your lips?" I'm like, "Oh no, I've become my mom, my cookum, the thing I hated most." Yeah, so that nonverbal piece, it just ties into, again, a lot of the things when we're playing these traditional games like double ball, which is like lacrosse, or a game called Hoop and Arrow. You're always engaging different pieces that are going to translate to different parts of your life. So for those two games, you're deep breathing, calming yourself, concentrating, hand-eye coordination. So that would have been for hunting or for warfare, protecting your community. But it's also a fun thing. So I always try and share those elements, because one of my fears is I share something with somebody and they just take it as that was fun. Because if we don't give those protocols and those, I don't know if parameters is the right word, our culture isn't going to have meaning. And people ask me to teach them things, and if they're not Indigenous, I decline, because if you miss a piece of the story of that game, things along that, then again, it's just going to be kitschy and something that anybody can do, but it won't have the heart or the spirit in it. And again, with the bones, you're drumming and singing with a hand drum, a drumstick. I always acknowledge those animals, that tree that once had a heartbeat, and its spirit in a certain way, that those things still have elements of spirit to them. So when I'm handling them, I'm trying to think positively. So again, it's a whole range of things. When I'm teaching the game, when I'm playing it, I'm praying at the same time. Like the other people are enjoying it, they're getting things from it they want, that they're connecting with Creator, with Mother Nature, and all those things. So I guess in those ways, through the pandemic and out of it, yeah, those things just really ring true, that our mental health, our spiritual being, our physical, mental, emotional, all that stuff gets tied up in it. And so even though we talk about our residential school experiences, the Indian Act, all these different elements, legislation on how Canada has treated and continues to treat and marginalize, and I'm not trying to get too political here, but just all those realities that we deal with as Indigenous people every day. We can't turn off being Indigenous if allies or accomplices want to assist us and join the fight. They can check out anytime they want, but we continue to be followed in stores or not rented certain places, or those things that are specifically due to us just being who we are. So I make a point of acknowledging those things, but I also, through these games, try and draw out other people's cultures, because in ways that I've been taught by different elders. So one would be Casey Eagle Speaker, George Callieu, who's passed. Um, Rest in peace to him. I'm trying to think of Wanda First Rider. Like all of these different elders have really promoted how important it is to learn about your cultures and where you come from.